talking about, when we talk to prospects, we talk to clients, there are different people involved in those discussions, there are different types of stakeholders, aren't there? And we might talk as technical people, perhaps more to the kind of CTO type of individual. Mm-hmm. And they've got a particular set of concerns which might be different from other stakeholders in the company. So if you've got, say, the program manager, you've got a CEO, those people will have their own concerns and their own wants and desires for projects and for the company. And a CTO is going to have a different set of concerns. Mm-hmm. And so I think those are things that we've had different experiences of at Clear Sky, of talking to people. So what kind of things have you come across, Matthew, where you've had conversations around that, and how have they been resolved?
Yeah, I guess as a CTO, people are going to contribute to your code base, and so you want to know that they're up to the job and that they're going to, on a base level, be competent enough to actually do the job, but also are they going to be able to work quick enough to warrant the money they're getting paid? And I think it all comes down to understanding and sitting down together with the CTO and talking through. And there is a bedding in period. I think that's really something we've learned from previous projects, is that you're not going to go into a new company and just suddenly get up to the same speed as their in-house developers, because even if you're familiar with the tech stack, you're not going to be familiar with the product. And so there's that bedding in phase where you gain the common understanding, feel each other out, and find out working patterns.
Yeah, I guess that's the same for anything. If someone's trying to upskill a team, they're going to bring in, they've got a number of options. They could bring in a set of permanent employees, and there's obviously a recruitment process for that. There are notice periods. You could bring in contractors. Mm-hmm. Normally contractors would be, free agents at that point, so there wouldn't be a notice period. But obviously there's a cost, and those individuals are used to kind of, moving around fairly quickly and being fairly adaptable. But how do you go about bringing in a whole team that can be brought in to deliver a platform or a set of significant new features on a platform and help to augment the output? If you, say, have an existing in-house development team, you're looking at, say, doubling in size. Mm-hmm. Lots of different ways of doing that. And I suppose the concerns I've come across for CTOs is that a CTO who has already built a team internally has taken great pride in that process. Mm-hmm. They've scrutinised all those people who've come in, and they've talked to them about this sort of vision, about the way they do things and how they want things to work. And they've kind of moulded it in their own way and turned it into something that is, a department that they've built, that they are accountable for. And I think some of the concerns I've seen is where CTOs think about outsourcing as being almost losing control, and that, who are these guys who are going to come in and help us, and are they going to be good enough? Mm-hmm. Are they going to work in the way we want them to work? And are they going to help to deliver along the lines of what the business is after? Mm-hmm. Or if something goes wrong, is it going to be their responsibility, and do they feel like they don't actually have the control over that process? So perhaps they're in a position where they think it's a sort of a no-win for them, and all they see is the risk. Mm-hmm. So I think the scrutiny and that openness that we can show, and that flexibility around the way we can work with different clients, I think is a great help in that way.
Yeah, I think the coming into working with a new company, that, like you say, they've got their ways of doing things, and they're kind of quite, you can become quite attached to them. But I think any good technology leader will realise that getting the job done is the end goal, and how you do that, you choose the right tool for the job. So if we're starting with a new organisation, we will start following their patterns and maybe just blindly following them and getting up to speed with how they do things. And then when there's a level of trust built with a customer, we will then maybe start to suggest things and say, the end goal is this and you're doing it this way, but maybe if we try this way, it's a bit more direct. And then that's where we can add value, is bringing maybe new ideas, because startups can become quite small and insular. If you've got a small team of people doing something, working really hard, they get quite blinkered to the way they're getting from A to B. But if we come in with fresh ideas, just by dint of the fact we've not worked on it for 6 months or a year, that can be really valuable, I think.
Yeah, that sort of objectivity that you bring as a team who've worked in different ways, perhaps using similar tools, but maybe different ways. Yeah, I think we've seen real value being added there. But I think, yeah, you're right, after a while, maybe after some trust has been earned, because potentially it's easy for people to come in and say, well, what have you guys been doing that for? We do it like this, it's much better. And almost creating a sort of competitive culture, which isn't very useful for anybody. So I think, yeah, working alongside people as much as we can, and then suggesting potential improvements to that process, I think is probably a good sort of balance that we've seen work well.
And I think another thing we've talked about before is if you're a small company, a small startup, bringing in a team, you need a product manager, you need a designer, you need a tester, you need a business analyst, and then you need the developers and a developer lead. And you can't afford to have a team of 8 specialists, whereas with ClearSky you can bring in maybe the project manager and the business analyst at the start, and then you swap them out with the developers in the middle, and then at the end you maybe bring in the tester in. So you've only got 2 people that you're paying for, but those 2 people change, and they work together well because they work for the same company.
Yeah, that's one of the great benefits, I think, of the dedicated tech team is that exact feature where you have a small number of people, maybe 2 or 3 people, and a full-time resources, plus project management. But at the end, that makeup of that team just changes over time according to the specific needs of the project.
Yeah. And it de-risks it for the client. They're not having to hire people and pay national insurance and kind of manage having staff. They've got quite a contractual relationship similar to an individual contractor, but a company that has a variety of skills.
And also I think like now you've got the rules around IR35, so if you're a contractor, then you're now considered, almost exclusively considered, to be a full-time employee with all those responsibilities around holiday pay, sickness, national insurance, etc., and all of the rights that a permanent employee enjoys and has enjoyed for all time. I think there's another scenario as well that some of our clients, they have a CTO in place, but they don't have any team at all. So they've decided to bring in someone who's a kind of technical leader, and that they're going to be looking at third parties for all of their technology. So there's no desire at all to bring in a permanent team. And I think there's a different situation there because there's already an openness around, okay, I'm going to be working closely with a third party, and how do I get the confidence in a third party that they're going to be the best third party for us and aligned with us. And I think a lot of that comes down to then us really understanding what that business is, getting our heads entirely around it and understanding what their priorities are. And normally in those situations, they're companies that are very focused on a particular platform or product. They're normally companies that are more in their infancy in terms of maturity. So if they haven't built up, development teams, they're not looking at adding, say, a new feature or a new product. They're looking at adding, the feature and the product. So it's like they're creating an MVP, a minimal viable product, the first thing perhaps to go to market with. They maybe have funding in place and looking at bringing people in quickly who can start to work on a backlog of features and create something really quickly, and then iterate through that and improve it over time as they get traction. And we've seen that with a number of our clients as well, where they're entirely open to the idea of outsourcing all of the development work, but it's about who is the right partner for them, and are they aligned, and are they able to deliver on that? And in those situations, we've brought in business analysis and also design as well, I think, as a really key feature up front to start to block out what a user interface would look like and how it would behave. And we can create those things really quickly, and they also help to gain traction for their clients or their users as well. So if they're looking for funding or they're looking for traction with potential clients, then those sorts of UI, UX designs can be massively beneficial and much quicker to create than the actual web application itself, and sort of leverage that whole process of generating interest. And that's something we've seen work really well recently with a number of clients.
Yeah, I think it's about being iterative, isn't it? You can't prove that you can deliver until you've delivered something. So you deliver something small, because that shortens the time frame within which you start to prove your abilities. And like you said, you can't hit the ground running day one. So you recognise that and say, well, how are we going to break this down? How are we going to give you deliveries in week 1, week 2, and week 3 that start to make movement forward and start to build that trust that we can do what we say we're going to do?
Yeah, because that's often one of the big complaints. We come across clients who've really been burned in terms of outsourcing IT development. This is quite a common theme that we find, is where there's been one attempt at outsourcing some work and it's gone badly, and they've effectively had to throw away all of that work, or there's been an entire lack of delivery. And it's hard to dig into those sometimes, but often it's a case of there's a lack of visibility, a lack of openness with that third party. It's more a case of, okay, we understand, we'll go away and we'll deliver this thing to you in 3 months' time. And at that point, so it's a very waterfall approach. There's not the sort of touch points that we would generally insist upon, which would be more like around every couple of weeks at the very most. And in fact, we encourage, there's very engaged CTOs to join our Scrum meetings on a daily basis. So some clients like to do that almost every day, or they'll just jump in, and all the developers are aware that the client could be on the call, and they're perfectly happy to discuss the progress and problems of a project with the client present. And the client can see that people are, they're intelligent, they're engaged, they want to deliver, they can see the progress, and it helps to remove any uncertainty from their point of view as well, I think.
Yeah, or the other way around we've done recently with a client is that we actually join their Scrum team in the morning. So we're having stand-up every morning, and it's their stand-up. They run the show, but our development team are part of that, and we contribute. I think the ideal is that you're taken in and treated the same as everyone else. It's not like Clear Sky and the rest of our development team. It's now there are 3 developers from Clear Sky, and now we've got a team of 6 instead of 3, and we work under the same rules, the same practice. I think is where it works best. And like you said, if there is that kind of responsibility, if it goes wrong, if we don't deliver, whose responsibility is that? I think it's important to have principles in place, but if you're having to fall back to the contract and point it to it and say, this is your fault, then something's gone wrong. And it should be more of a collaborative, right, we've got an issue, given what we're doing right now, who's best placed to fix that?
Yeah, I think that way that integrating those developers is great, because there's no us and them anymore. It's just it's all us, which is what you want, isn't it? You want just to be a bigger us, so we can go and develop something and create some great software for clients, and everybody's happy.
And it's mutually beneficial. Like, we will and have inevitably learned practices and techniques and things from our clients, and that's why I like working in consultancy. I get to see lots of different projects and work with different people, internal and external, and learn different things that we can apply between clients and between ourselves.
And they'll learn stuff from us as well.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's a two-way street, isn't it? Yeah. Everyone benefits, I think.